SummerSlam 1991. A memorable night. Not only did Macho Man Randy Savage marry Miss Elizabeth whilst wearing the single best hat of all time, but as we've often discussed in List, this was a show that saw the Ultimate Warrior get suspended, and for those of you who don't know, fear not my friends, we'll get to that. It's also home to one of the best Intercontinental title matches of all time when challenger Bret Hart took on champion Mr. Perfect. Trust me, it's worth the entrance ticket alone. I'm Plumpy from WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 fascinating facts about SummerSlam 91. Number 10, Ric Flair hadn't officially signed with WWE at the time. There doesn't come much better wrestling stupid than 1991 WCW stupid. Jim Herd was Executive Vice President for World Championship Wrestling in 1991 and had already managed, through a series of short-sighted money-burning schemes, demoralizing, oblivious to his wrestlers, and total ignorance of the WCW product, had already chased away Jim Cornette, the Road Warriors, Stan Hansen, and broken up the Midnight Express. His masterpiece, however, was firing then NWA heavyweight champion Ric Flair 2 weeks before the Great American Bash, after he refused to take a pay cut, become a mid-carder, and change his name to Spartacus. Seriously. Flair was on his way to WWF, and Bobby Heenan actually appeared on WWE TV before SummerSlam holding the NWA heavyweight belt, because Jim Herd hadn't got it back off Flair when he fired him and refused to pay the $25,000 deposit owed to Flair to make him legally return the belt, because Jim Herd is a idiot. Despite the belt making an appearance, Flair hadn't yet put pen to paper with WWE, so they didn't explicitly mention him on TV. That's weird. Number 9, Mr. Perfect missed most of the summer with a back injury. In mid-June 1991, Bret Hart found out he'd be dethroning long-reigning Intercontinental Champion Mr. Perfect at SummerSlam. The two extraordinary athletes had torn the house down at many a live event with their time limit draws, and were going to get the chance to show a worldwide audience that main event be damned, they were the best wrestlers in the company. Roughly a week after Hart learned about the plans, Perfect was taken off the road with a serious back injury, as a champion's fondness for taking wild and astounding bumps was playing havoc with his health. At the time, the word was Curt Hennig might actually miss SummerSlam due to the severity of his injuries. A consummate pro to the end, Perfect made the show, put on a Mac Classic with an injured back, and then took a leave from wrestling for 15 months. Mr. Perfect was a bloody legend. Number 8, it was the first IC title change via submission. Bret Hart was a master of the finish, and his counter against Perfect was a work of genius. With Hart writhing on the canvas, Perfect took to dropping his leg across Hart's abdomen. Hart caught the foot and grapevine Perfect's legs before flipping him into the sharpshooter for the win. Hart's victory marked the 18th time in 12 years that the Intercontinental belt changed hands inside the ring, but it was the first time ever by submission. In that era, it was quite rare for top-shelf talent to submit on WWE programming, making Hart's victory in that fashion even more special. The next time the IC belt changed hands via submission would be less than a year later in 1992, when the Mountie passed out in Roddy Piper's sleeper hold at the Royal Rumble. Number 7, the payroll sheet went public. One of the more curious things brought to light via the Warrior vs. McMahon's legal team handicap match was the fact that the list of payoffs for each performer on the SummerSlam 1991 card, that got leaked. The list was made available to prove in one particular 1993 lawsuit that Warrior and Hogan were on the same level of pay. The document provides a rare, unfettered look at the financial dealings of WWE, listing what each wrestler made for their work. Hogan and Warrior made out with $75,000 apiece, Sergeant Slaughter made $50,000, Randy Savage and Miss Elizabeth were paid $75,000 and $50,000 respectively for their nuptial bliss. Wrestlers in the upper mid-card, such as Bret Hart, Big Boss Man, Mr. Perfect, and others, generally made between $15,000 and $12,000 each. Number 6, it was Andre the Giant's last WWE appearance in America. You cannot accurately recall the history of professional wrestling at Madison Square Garden without Andre. The 8th wonder of the world is as intertwined with the world's most famous arena as much as he is with WWE itself, and it's rather fitting that his last WWE appearance in America took place in the Garden. Andre accompanied the Bushwhackers for a short undercard match against the Natural Disasters. The aging, deteriorating Andre was using hand crutches to get around, and WWE even built in a kayfabe excuse by having Earthquake injure Andre's leg at an angle earlier that summer. Andre would make his final appearances for the company overall during a tour of Europe in October 1991, seconding Davey Boy Smith in victories over Earthquake. Fittingly, the last night of the tour was in Andre's home country of France. Number 5, Road Warrior Hawk had been suspended for most of the summer. SummerSlam was planned to be the moment that Animal and Hawk, the Legion of Doom, would ascend to their rightful place atop the WWE Tag Team pile. The popular muscle men were set to dethrone the enemies of cleanliness, the Nasty Boys, in New York City. Before that would come to pass, Hawk got himself in a little spot of bother that could have potentially derailed those plans. In May 91, he failed a drug test and was suspended for 60 days. Animal carried on for a bit, working singles matches against Brian Knobbs and Jerry Sags at house shows, thinking the opportunity to win the belts had been blown. When Hawk rejoined him on the road in mid-July, nothing about Hawk's suspension was ever brought up again, and the LOD continued their path to the belts like nothing ever happened. Number 4, the LOD made history. After Jerry Sags flipped ass over tea kettle off the Doomsday device, Animal scored the pin that crowned the Legion of Doom Tag Team Champions. The victory was more than just an electrifying moment for the fans, it also afforded Animal and Hawk a unique claim in wrestling history. That night, the men formerly known as the Road Warriors became the first and only team to win the WWE, NWA WCW, and AWA World Tag Team titles. The trifecta was realized over a 7-year stretch, beginning with the AWA's belts in 1984, then the NWA straps in 1988, then fulfilled with a SummerSlam win in 91. Number 3, Warrior was suspended immediately after his match. It's one of our favorite stories. Warrior gets cross that he wasn't paid the same as Hogan for WrestleMania 7, holds up Vince McMahon for the cash and other royalties and licensing demands, threatens to no-show SummerSlam, gets his cash, then is immediately suspended once the match is over. After SummerSlam's final match, in which Warrior chased Colonel Mustafa and General Adnan to the locker room, Warrior was handed a note written by McMahon, dated that day. The note read, in part, "You threatened to stay at home, thereby not even appearing at Titan's major summer pay-per-view event, SummerSlam. I had no choice but to accede to your exorbitant demands. This was a serious mistake on your part." Ominous AF. I would not like Vince McMahon to hand me a note like that. Number 2, Randy Savage didn't want to return to the ring. With Warrior out of the picture for the foreseeable future, Jake Roberts, who was set to feud with the rocket fuel enthusiast, was transitioned into a feud with Macho Man Randy Savage instead. After the wedding, an angle was filmed wherein Roberts and The Undertaker disrupted the wedding reception by packing a cobra into a wedding present. That's f***ing brilliant. Problem was, when Savage lost his retirement bout to Warrior at WrestleMania 7, he had intended to stay retired and had crossed words with McMahon. Vinny Boy, however, needed Savage to come back to fill that Ultimate Warrior-shaped hole in his babyface scene and threatened to pull Savage off of commentary if he didn't agree to return as a wrestler. And number 1, it was the only SummerSlam to do a bigger buy rate than its corresponding WrestleMania. SummerSlam 1991 was imperiled by the damage done to Hogan's name following the disastrous Arsenio Hall interview where Hogan barefaced lied about taking steroids on national television, and the buy rate was down mightily from 1 year earlier. In all, SummerSlam 91 did 405,000 buys on pay-per-view, down 20% from 1990's total and a whopping 35% from 1989's. Still, the 91 show holds the distinction of being the only SummerSlam to outdo the buy rate of the WrestleMania from the same calendar year. WrestleMania 7 not only flopped with the Iraq War storyline, but it got beaten out by SummerSlam by about 5,000 buys. Embarrassing.
Hello, I am Adam Pacitti, and I am fun. To prove how fun I am, I'm going to ask you a wrestling-based trivia question. Are you ready? Good. The DDT became famous for being the finishing move of which wrestler? The answer is Jake the Snake Roberts. That was fun. For more fun, buy the What Culture Wrestling trivia game, available now at shop.whatculture.com.